Are you being called to live your life as a grand adventure? Join us for this week's energy insights around following your heart, moving beyond limitations, and serving the highest good. We will weave this wisdom together through the teachings of Gene Key 35 and the symbology of the Sabian symbols. Welcome to the Free to Be Free portal, where we cheer you on for your most exquisite and empowered lives. I'm Julia Ananda, your host, here with Mystic Margaret Miller. Margaret, I'm so pleased to be collaborating with you for this discussion.
Thank you, Julia. So am I. It's always such a pleasure.
Yes.
So, yes, so the grand adventure of life. And that is, I think, one of my biggest mottos in life. So I'm really excited about this. So I really do believe that, this life can be an incredible adventure. So I guess I'll start with the gene key 35, which moves from the shadow of hunger to the city of boundlessness. And it is the pathway of adventure. So, so looking at this gene key, the shadow of hunger, it feels and is quite primal. This is a very, very basic shadow of humanity. And, because the basic needs, are require us to know that we need them, right? So, we have to know when we're hungry, and we have to know what to do about that hunger. And we have to know when we're thirsty and what to do about that thirst. And so at that level, it's not really a shadow. But over the millennia, it has become this shadow of hunger has not so much to do with our actual physical needs in most cases. I mean, there are obviously many still places in the world where that is a reality, and it's still a shadow frequency because that shouldn't be happening. That shouldn't have to occur anymore on this planet. But the 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 shadow frequency for the sort of the modern world is that we're trying to oftentimes and many times throughout our entire lives trying to fill the empty space that we feel inside of ourselves, and doing that through the hunger for food, stuffing ourselves with too much food, too much drink, too much of whatever, to avoid pain and seek pleasure without regard for our own well-being, and oftentimes without regard for others' well-being as well. And so, uh, the lust for sex, the lust for power, the lust for money, the possessions, the drive to achieve more and more and to have more things, and to and all the while not even making a dent in that hunger, right? Because, and that's how that that's a shadow frequency, because it's not what we generally do to try to solve that doesn't solve it. It doesn't make it go away. In fact, in many cases, it just makes it worse. And so just, thinking about that in our lives, and many of us, and anybody probably who's listening to this has, done a lot of inner work and is very much on a path that is trying to move away from those things. But we're not trying to get rid of the shadow, because this shadow of hunger, it it does spur us on towards something. And if we recognize that that hunger is really for, at this point in our evolution, is for connection and love and communion, and the seeking of source, the seeking of God, the seeking of, the the unity of all that is. And so in that context, we recognize then that it can't be filled with food or drink or drugs or sex or money or power or any of those things. I'm not saying that any of those things are bad or wrong. It's just that they won't satisfy that hunger. And and when we start to operate from a higher frequency, we come into this gift of adventure, where we begin to recognize that we are given this incredible gift of life, and we might as well enjoy it and see it as a great adventure, because well we don't necessarily remember who we really are, although I think there is a percentage of the population that is starting to remember who we really are, these infinite beings of light that exist beyond time and space, right? And as if we even contemplate that, if we're these infinite beings who exist, these incredible beings of light who exist beyond time and space, why not live this as a great adventure? We don't know. We're still in the dark in terms of how it all is going to turn out, but we're given these clues and these synchronicities and these desires or drives or hunger to find out. And so we begin to start to live life as an adventure. And some of that can be adventuring out into the world, especially if we're someone who doesn't do that normally. To, okay, go see what's in your neighborhood, go meet your neighbors, go find out who lives next door. If you live in a city, go find out who lives next door. Go find out uh, what's in walking distance to you that you may not have discovered, and treat it as an adventure, that you're going out on a treasure hunt. you know I mean, those kinds of simple things. But also, I think that the one of the gene keys, one of the teachings in the gene keys, one of the basic teachings, is the Grail quest, right? And the Grail quest asks the question, how may I be of the greatest service to the whole? And so if we begin our day with that question, then we can be, on that quest and on an adventure that leads us in our daily tasks towards things that benefit not only ourselves, but the collective. Even just our meditations, or our taking the pauses and dropping our energy and attention down into our heart center, and you know realigning ourselves with that higher vision throughout the day will keep us on that adventure. And all of us have experienced, like, when we are in that space, when we're at a frequency, at this gift level of adventure, then the synchronicities start to happen, and it gets even more exciting and more adventurous, right? Because wow, what's going to happen next? And who am I going to encounter, or what am I going to encounter in my life that's going to bring even more joy? And we begin to feel that fulfillment, right? And we begin to operate from that gift level where we are offering what we have, offering our gifts out into the world as if we have, as if our supply is unlimited, which it is, which it truly is. And so then at that point we begin to, I can feel this just in my body right now, that feeling of being lightened up. My load is being lightened up, and that adventurous spirit has no boundaries, right? And so that city of boundlessness has to do with recognizing that we are these infinite beings, and that we really have not even begun to scratch the surface of what is possible for us as humanity. In the audio recording that Richard Rudd does for this 35th gene key, he talks about the obsession. I don't think that's the word he uses, but of flight, like that we want to fly. And you can see it, especially in the younger generation, like all of the movies, all of the superheroes fly, or lots of them fly, and in our dreams we fly. And those, I mean, I won't speak for everyone, but I will speak for myself. My dreams of flying are my favorite dreams. In fact, that's something that I look forward to when I go to sleep. I wonder if I'll fly tonight. And I have a story that maybe I'll tell later on if there's time about that. But the potential is maybe 1,000 years from now, maybe 100 years from now, maybe, that we discover that we have these capacities, and that, this is something that where it's unfolding now. I mean, telepathy, there's so much evidence, even scientific evidence now of our telepathic abilities that we have not, most of us have not tapped into yet. So what else? What is in this boundlessness? And that we, through our adventurous um, journey through this life, we might discover or uncover or begin to emulate for humanity, right? It's I love this gene key. It's such an invitation to live this beautiful, adventurous life. And and so my invitation to everyone here is to say, what if my life really is, what if I planned to come here to go on a great adventure, and that it can include everything that I have to do in a day. And even the mundane things that I have to do today can have a sense of adventurousness to them, especially if I choose to do things in a new way, or with a new attitude, with a new perception. Okay, so that's sort of a little synopsis of the 35th gene key.
Oh, that's just an incredibly exciting invitation to just break free and truly be ourselves and be as exuberant and as connected and as joyful as we can be.
Yeah, yeah. So let's take a look now at the Sabian symbols as well. And I had fun doing this one. It was because I am so connected to the feeling of adventurousness in my own life. I think most people who know me would agree that I have a sense of adventure, you know. Uh, but so it was. I was excited to see what might come out of these Sabian symbols as well. So I'll go ahead and share my screen. And so oops, there we go. So we're starting with Gemini 13 here, although the Gemini 12 shares the shares with the previous gene key as well. But so we'll move on to Gemini 13, which is a famous pianist giving a concert performance. Okay, so here you have someone, this concert pianist, right, giving his gift out to the world, right? This bounteous gift, and having to, sometimes in order to live our lives as an adventure, and sometimes in order to get to the point where we have that gift to offer, there's an incredible amount of discipline and work and so forth that goes in with it. But once you're at that level, once it's a part of who you are, right, then it becomes this incredible accomplishment and fulfillment, right, where that offering out of that beautiful music becomes this gift to society and to humanity. And so then we move on to Gemini 14, which is a conversation by telepathy. And so it's the capacity to transcend our physical limitations and to move into a transcendent awareness, right? And to become a bridge between the known reality, the reality that we have been living, and the potentials, the human potentials and the planetary potentials and the universal potentials. And so I just thought, okay, well, I think we're on the right track here with this. And then Gemini 15, two Dutch children talking to each other, exchanging ideas. And so it has this, it brings the two Dutch children and Dane Rudier, who wrote the beautiful an astrological mandala book about the Sabian symbols, talks about this as the Dutch, the Dutch children bring this energy of open-mindedness and open, willingness to speak their mind. That's sort of and this neatness and cleanliness that the Dutch sort of have been known for over the ages, and how they're exchanging ideas so that they're it's Gemini, so they're bouncing off each other, which is a sort of a Gemini trait. It's a mental energy, it's communication and learning and understanding and looking for the new ideas. And so you can feel how that can lead to adventure and boundlessness and moving into different ways of looking at things. And then Gemini 16, a woman activist in an emotional speech dramatizing her cause, right? So feeling the passion of whatever it is that is feeding your adventurous nature, bringing to the world new and maybe radical or unaccustomed ideas, and bringing them out in a way that causes other people to get excited about them, right? And to be willing to take the risks that are involved in making great changes. And those great changes lead to that spirit of adventure, because we don't really know how things, how these things will turn out. And then Gemini 17 is the last one that's associated with this gene key 35 of hunger, adventure, and boundlessness. And this is the head of a robust youth changes into that of a mature thinker. And you can kind of feel how that, the the hunger and the drive and the the restlessness and the exuberance of youth at some point matures into that thinker who can then bring some of those ideas and those dreams and those passions into fruition. So that's how those Sabian symbols weave together with this. And I thought it did so in a really quite beautiful manner.
Yeah, yeah. The telepathy symbol is fascinating to me. That we become that bridge between our human world, the 3D world, and the larger universal wisdom,
Yes.
universal collective. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah. And you cannot travel that bridge. You cannot cross that bridge without taking the risk of going beyond uh, the mundane or the physical desires on this planet, right? That you can't obtain that without raising the frequency to that gift level, and taking the adventurous steps that will lead you across that bridge, or to become that bridge, right? To begin to communicate with each other. I mean, because we already do. We are already communicating telepathically. It's just whether we recognize it or not, whether we're willing to admit it or not,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I felt like you had something you
Yeah,
wanted to.
it expands us into communicating with the animals, the earth, the plant life, and it expands that definition that you were talking about earlier of serving, being willing to step past our limitations to serve the greatest good, but it expands that definition of the greatest good into all the others that we're communicating with now. Now we can feel what's in the greatest good for them.
Yes.
We can feel their need and their perspective, their side of the story, so we can expand our service beyond just what we see in front of us and to those around us, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And and that doesn't mean that we have to be the ones who do some like incredible amazing thing, although I think all of us do at some point, or have the capacity to do some really big and amazing things. But it can be just the attitude with which you move through your day, and really, really imbibing the the joy of being alive in every moment, and taking the time and taking the pause. And this is that time comes into this because the programming partner here is the fifth gene key, which we'll talk about at some point as when it comes around the wheel, right? But it is the shadow of impatience, the gift of patience, and the city of um, timelessness. So timelessness and boundlessness, right? And so they you can just know that they work together, like having patience for the outcome, like not and having that detached um, uh, sense of it, whatever happens will happen, but I'm going to put forth my best efforts and my best um, self towards these grand adventures and grand ideas.
Yes. And so many of us these days are feeling pulled to come out of our shells, pulled to come out of the structure, the prisons that we're in, our own, you know, perception of our limitations. And when we move into that feeling inside of us of boundlessness, of jumping into the adventure, it completely transmutes the common thoughts that are cycling through of the to-do lists and the responsibility and the overwhelm and the do I have enough money and oh, this person wants this. It completely changes
Yeah.
the talk that's in our heads into I can't wait to see what comes next, or just having fun in the moment. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, or whatever adventure we can come up with, and being excited about that instead of worrying about things that we really don't need to worry about.
Yeah. So I think I do want to bring in a wisdom keeper card. And this is again, once again, from Rosie Aronson's Wisdom Keeper deck. And this is adventure.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And so a couple of the questions that this asks, questions for contemplation. Is your life boring or lacking in adventure? Do you avoid boredom at all costs by keeping busy or forever looking for the next heightened experience? Where is your hunger insatiable? Where are you starving yourself? There's several more, but I thought just a couple. I thought I
Oh, yeah, those are great. Those are great. So let's invite our audience then. In the comments, please tell us, is your life boring? Is it lacking adventure? And where is your heart calling you? Where do you want to create boundlessness in your life? Margaret, thank you so much for bringing us your insights for this week's energy. And please join us, everyone, for our next video where we'll do the energetic recalibration to align ourselves with the highest aspects of this week's energy. Thank you all.
thank you.